During the renovation of the palace's ancient walls, workers accidentally discovered a hidden compartment. Inside was a map drawn on yellowed parchment. Date: 1623. The gold veins marked on the map matched exactly with modern charts. When Traoré held the map in his hands, he had found proof of how the West had systematically exploited Africa's wealth for 400 years. The discovery was made on a Tuesday morning in what had once been the colonial governor's mansion, a grand structure built in the late 19th century that now served as one of the presidential working residences in Ouagadougou. President Ibrahim Traoré had ordered the renovation after structural engineers warned that the East Wing, damaged during previous political unrest, needed urgent repairs. Abdul Kate, the chief restoration architect, was supervising the removal of damaged plaster from a section of wall when his team uncovered something unusual, a small alcove that appeared to have been deliberately sealed decades, perhaps centuries, earlier. Mr. President, we found something. You should see, Konate said over the secure phone line established for the renovation project. When Traoré arrived an hour later, workers had carefully expanded the opening, revealing a cavity roughly the size of a small safe. Inside was a cylindrical metal container, tarnished with age but remarkably intact. The presidential security detail insisted on scanning it for explosives or other hazards before allowing it to be removed. It appears to be 18th century, possibly earlier, Kate said, examining the container's craftsmanship. European design, but with North African influences in the metalwork. True watched with measured interest as Kate, wearing conservation gloves, carefully unscrewed the container's cap. From inside, he extracted a roll of what appeared to be parchment, protected by an outer layer of oilcloth that had preserved it remarkably well despite Burkina Faso's harsh climate. We should take this to the conservation lab before attempting to unroll it, Konate advised. No, Traoré replied, his military training making him cautious about letting such a discovery out of his sight. Open it here. Under Traoré's watchful gaze, Kate gently unrolled the parchment on a clean table brought in for the purpose. What emerged was a detailed map of West Africa, recognizable despite using archaic place names and geographical features that had since changed. Most remarkably, the map was marked with a network of lines, symbols, and annotations in faded brown ink. This appears to be a mining or resource map, Konate said, studying the markings. And judging by the script and cartographic style, it dates from the early 17th century. In the corner of the map was an ornate cartouche containing text in Portuguese and what appeared to be a date. Traoré leaned closer, his interest now fully engaged. As a leader who had come to power promising to reclaim Burkina Faso's mineral wealth from foreign exploitation, he immediately grasped the potential significance of such a discovery. I want this analyzed immediately. Bring in experts, but keep this absolutely confidential, he ordered. Over the next 72 hours. A small team of historians, geologists, and linguists worked in a secure room within the presidential compound, meticulously studying the ancient map. What they discovered would shake the foundations of West Africa's colonial history and provide Traoré with an unexpected weapon in his ongoing battle for resource sovereignty. The map, created by Portuguese explorers nearly 400 years earlier, detailed with astonishing accuracy the location of gold deposits across what would later become Burkina Faso, Mali, Ghana, and surrounding territories. Modern geological surveys conducted with advanced technology in the late 20th and early 21st centuries had identified these same deposits, often presented by Western mining companies as new discoveries, justifying their exclusive extraction rights. Most damning were the annotations in the margins, written in a mixture of Portuguese and an early form of mercantile code that the linguists eventually deciphered. They contained explicit instructions for concealing the extent of the region's mineral wealth from local populations, strategies for exploiting resources with minimal investment, and methods for ensuring that processed gold returned to European capitals rather than enriching African kingdoms. One passage, translated from Portuguese, was particularly explicit. The natives must never learn the true extent of the yellow metal beneath their soil, for knowledge of such wealth would empower resistance against rightful European guidance and commerce. When the analysis was complete, True sat alone in his office, reviewing the comprehensive report. The implications were staggering. For centuries, European powers had known precisely where Africa's gold reserves were located, information they had deliberately withheld while crafting narratives about discovering resources and bringing development to the continent. The historical deception aligned perfectly with contemporary experiences. Western mining corporations continued to enter African nations with claims of risk-taking exploration, demanding generous concessions and tax benefits for discovering mineral deposits. That, it now appeared, had been documented in European archives for centuries. True considered his options carefully. As a military strategist, he understood that information was often more powerful than weapons, but only when deployed at the right moment and in the right context. 3 days after receiving the analysis, he convened a private meeting with the leaders of 5 neighboring West African nations, all of whom faced similar challenges with foreign mining interests. The gathering was kept off official schedules, with leaders arriving under the pretense of regional security discussions. In a secure conference room beneath the presidential palace, Traoré unveiled the map and its analysis to his fellow leaders. What you are seeing, he told them, is evidence of a deception spanning 4 centuries. The colonial powers, and now their corporate descendants, have never been discovering our resources. They have always known exactly where our wealth lies. Information they kept from us while extracting that wealth for themselves. President Yallo of Guinea studied the map intently. This confirms what we have long suspected, but the evidence has always been circumstantial. With this, we can demonstrate that the entire colonial narrative about bringing progress through resource discovery was a calculated lie. More importantly, added President Go of Mali, it undermines the legal foundation of many current mining concessions. If these companies claim discovery rights for deposits that were already documented in European archives, their contracts were secured under false pretenses. The leaders spent hours discussing how best to use this historical evidence to strengthen their position in ongoing negotiations with foreign mining interests. The consensus that emerged was both bold and strategic. They would not immediately publicize the map but would instead use it as leverage in a coordinated renegotiation of mining contracts across their respective countries. We should approach this methodically, Traoré advised. Each of us will confront the primary mining corporations in our countries with this evidence privately, demanding substantially improved terms that reflect the truth. They are not risk-taking discoverers, but rather the latest beneficiaries of centuries of deliberate exploitation. Before the meeting concluded, the leaders established the West African Resource Sovereignty Alliance, a formal framework for coordinating their approach to foreign mining interests and ensuring that no country could be isolated or pressured into accepting unfavorable terms. 2 weeks later, in the gleaming headquarters of Mandil Mining Corporation in Toronto, CEO Richard Patterson was having the worst day of his professional life. Across from him sat Ibrahim Traoré, flanked by Burkina Faso's Minister of Mines and a small team of legal advisors. Asterisk, this is absurd, Patterson sputtered, staring at the high-quality reproduction of the 1623 map Traoré had placed on the conference table. You're suggesting that a 400-year-old document somehow invalidates modern mining contracts negotiated in good faith? Asterisk, not invalidates, Traoré corrected calmly, contextualizes. Your company entered Burkina Faso claiming to be taking extraordinary risks to discover gold deposits, risks that justified your claiming 88% of the revenue from those deposits. This map, which has been authenticated by independent experts, demonstrates that European interests have known the location of these deposits for centuries. He leaned forward slightly. What we are offering is not cancellation of your contracts, but renegotiation based on historical truth rather than colonial fiction. Asterisk, operate in Burkina Faso, but under terms that reflect reality, a 60-40 revenue split in our favor. Mandatory technology transfer and processing facilities built within our borders. Patterson's face flushed with anger. This is nothing short of nationalization. Our shareholders will never accept such terms. Asterisk, your shareholders have enjoyed unprecedented returns based on a historical lie. Traoré responded, his voice still measured but with steel beneath it. They will continue to profit, just not at the exploitative levels colonial thinking has led them to expect. He stood, gathering his materials. You have 1 week to begin good faith negotiations on these terms. After that, we will release this historical evidence publicly, file formal complaints with international arbitration bodies, and pursue legal remedies for contracts secured under demonstrably false pretenses. Asterisk, as Traoré and his team departed, Patterson immediately called the company's legal department, government relations team, and major shareholders. The consensus that emerged from these frantic consultations was reluctant, but clear. Fighting this battle publicly would be disastrous, potentially triggering similar challenges across multiple African nations where the company operated. Asterisk, by the end of the week, Mandeel Mining had agreed to preliminary terms for renegotiating its presence in Burkina Faso. Asterisk, similar scenes played out in corporate offices from Paris to Beijing, as mining companies operating across West Africa suddenly faced coordinated demands for fundamentally restructured relationships. What made the situation particularly challenging for these corporations was that the West African nations weren't seeking to simply expel foreign mining interests, a move that might have triggered international intervention, but rather to establish more equitable partnerships based on documented historical realities that the companies found difficult to dispute. Asterisk, 3 months after the discovery of the map, Ibrahim Traoré addressed a special session of the Pan-African Parliament in Johannesburg. It was time, he had decided, to share the discovery more broadly with the African community. Asterisk, for generations, he told the assembled representatives from across the continent, we have been told a story about our resources. That story portrayed Europeans and later Western corporations as intrepid explorers, risking capital and expertise to discover mineral wealth that we supposedly knew nothing about. Asterisk, on the large screens behind him appeared high-resolution images of the 1623 map, alongside modern geological surveys showing the remarkable correlation between what Portuguese explorers had documented 4 centuries earlier and what mining companies claimed to have discovered in recent decades. Asterisk, this map, found hidden in what was once a colonial governor's residence, tells a different story. A story of systematic deception spanning centuries. A story of resources known but kept secret. Wealth extracted but never shared. Knowledge hoarded to maintain power imbalances that persist to this day. Asterisk, The chamber fell silent as African legislators absorbed the implications of what they were seeing. For many, it confirmed suspicions they had long held but could never definitively prove, that the narrative of Western discovery of African resources was fundamentally dishonest. Today, we are not simply sharing historical evidence, Traoré continued. We are announcing that the West African Resource Sovereignty Alliance has successfully renegotiated terms with every major mining corporation operating in our territory. These new agreements recognize our rightful ownership of resources that were never truly discovered by these companies and establish partnerships that reflect this reality. He outlined the transformative terms: majority revenue shares for African nations, mandatory in-country processing facilities, technology transfer requirements, and transparent